Here's a get-rich-quick scheme that actually works. At the end of this video, you'll know how to run a business that produces no goods, fails to deliver on any of its services, and intentionally keeps people unemployed, all while making billions of dollars. All you need to do is sell your soul. Welcome to the world of private employment.
You get it?
Yeah, I got it.
You know, we have something like 50,000 job seekers at any one given time, globally, looking for work. I really believe that there's a diamond in all of us. I mean, it's quite extraordinary today. It's a multi-million-dollar business. It's hard to believe.
On paper, job agencies or employment service companies exist to help unemployed people find work. But in reality, these private companies use loopholes to profit off doing the opposite, by sending people to dangerous working sites and forcing people to take jobs that they don't want. These corporations are paid grotesque amounts of money for putting people in jobs that might not even fit their qualifications. But it wasn't always like this. Australia used to have a model that genuinely helped unemployed people find work that actually suited them. The Commonwealth Employment Service of 1946.
I think when you leave school, you're a bit confused. Choosing the right career isn't easy. The Commonwealth Employment Service will advise you.
A public, government-owned and operated job agency introduced by then Labor Prime Minister John Curtin, in the goals of achieving a full employment economy. The CES was far from perfect, but it did what it set out to do, working together with businesses and unemployed people to fill job vacancies. CES managers would work directly with businesses, hearing the kinds of skills they needed and sort out the best qualified people for the role with their free employment service. Alternatively, if they weren't people who fit the job description, the CES arranged for trainings with local TAFE institutions so that workers could develop the skills needed to fulfill the job. Thanks to this, Australia's average unemployment rate was 2% from 1950 to 1974, a lot better than the average of 6.5% we've had from 1990 to now. It did, however, also introduce the work test, requiring workers to prove that they were able and willing to work if they wanted to qualify for welfare, aka the beginning of unemployed people needing to jump through hoops just for survival. In the 1970s, the welfare system took a turn for the worse. High rates of inflation plagued the economy, and the Whitlam government decided the fix was more unemployment and suppressed wages. And just like that, the dream of full employment was dead. But far be it for the government to acknowledge that this was their plan. Instead, they reframed unemployment, not as the fault of the government, but individuals. This is when terms like dole bludger started popping up everywhere, shifting the blame from themselves onto welfare recipients. And with this came a crackdown on those out of work, along with funding cuts to the CES. Try to name a better duo than politicians and blaming anyone but themselves. Corporate pressure and lobbying pushed the governments of the 90s to go even further with punitive measures for welfare recipients, with pork hitting introducing penalties on income support payments if they didn't complete their mutual obligations and a payment rate below the minimum wage, claiming that making people live in poverty-like conditions would give them an incentive to work. It doesn't. It's been known for decades that a stable income is the best incentive for people to find jobs by giving them security and peace of mind to look for a job that suits them, rather than a punishment-based system which simply pushes people into more mental distress and piles on them at a time when the government should be supporting them. And there's research to back this up. Job seekers under mutual obligations take longer to find employment. It sounds obvious, and yet... John Howard, because no bad thing can be truly bad until this guy is involved, took welfare to its neoliberal peak, putting up job tenders in the late 90s for private job employment companies to provide employment services and marking the beginning of the end of the CES, which was already on its knees because of a significant lack of investment as unemployment numbers rose. This is when things started to go wrong, like horribly wrong. Because unlike the publicly owned Commonwealth Employment Services, which operated to help unemployed people find work, private job agencies operate to make a profit. And their profit is based on one key metric. And no, it's not actually finding jobs. It's the amount of unemployed people they have going through their system. Because no unemployed people means no business, meaning no profits and angry shareholders, which opens up a pretty big can of worms. The kind of worms that would make you do forced labour for 40 cents an hour just so they can pocket thousands of dollars kind of worms. Because that's what private employment services like Max Employment and Serena Russo are doing. And they're incentivized to do it because ever since employment services were privatized, the government has been paying them for finding people employment. Except they're just trying to get people employed so they can get their cash and run. They don't really care what the job is or what you're doing. To make it even worse, a 2017 audit found that 64% of work for the dole sites don't meet appropriate safety standards. And unfortunately, we've seen the worst case, when 18-year-old Josh Park-Fing died at a mandatory work for the dole site. And you think that there are companies who are profiting off putting people in these dangerous environments. Up to $2,000 in some cases, paid and incentivized by the government. I promise you, that money they're handing out to employment service providers would be better spent giving the cash directly to the unemployed people they're claiming to help. It'll do a lot more than the poverty level payments that unemployed people currently receive on income support. That's before we even get into Centrelink. The government has outsourced many of Centrelink's core functions to businesses straight out of a villain movie like Serco, who will do anything if you pay them enough. In 2020, when more people were needing income support than in recent history, these private businesses were downsizing their staff when they should have been hiring more to handle the increased work.
There were heartbreaking scenes across Sydney today as the real economic cost of this virus pandemic was on full show, with crowds queuing at Centrelink.
They aren't waiting to get into a coronavirus clinic. They're queuing for help. A Centrelink office, a place many here have never been before.
The businesses like these are now in charge of Centrelink services, is why you have to listen to that hold music for hours to talk to someone. Because the head honchos want to do as little work as possible while still making their cash.
Just bear with me, it won't be too long.
$2,000 years later.
And that's how you end up with schemes like Workforce Australia, which we talked about a couple of videos ago. Already, in just the 2 weeks since the program started, we've seen countless issues that were completely predictable. But they were ignored because successive governments have been more interested in paying off employment services rather than solving the structural problems that actually result in unemployment and long-term unemployment, like accessible retraining programs to enter new industries or disability programs for people to find jobs that fit their needs. Welfare is incredibly important in any fair and flourishing society. Almost everyone at some point in their life will require government support. In fact, over just 1 year, a third of the Australian population, aged 15 to 64, will have received an income support payment. But for decades, governments alongside the conservative media working in the interest of big business have turned welfare into a bad word, as if someone should feel less than for needing income support. We saw what we used to have with CES, and even if it wasn't perfect, it's sure as hell better than the mess we've got now. Look, it's clear this system is broken. People are being pushed to their limits and jumping through countless hoops for a payment that barely accounts for survival. But we can take this down and build something better for everyone. A welfare system that treats people with respect and dignity first and foremost. A system that provides an income that accounts for people's needs by helping people looking for a job, one that's right for them and fits their skills and experience. The best way to push back on the privatisation of our welfare system is to support the people fighting to change it. You can donate to the Anti-Poverty Centre, the Australian Unemployed Workers Union, if you have the means. Or if you're at a Work for the Dole scheme, do their survey to identify the worst culprits of this malicious agenda. The Unemployed Workers Union also has an app to hold employment services accountable and a hotline if anyone needs help. We also need a government that's ready to support people doing it tough by raising the rate of job seeker to above the poverty line. So don't feel hopeless, because we can make things better for everyone. Will you join us? If you didn't get the privatisation of welfare, we hope you get it now.